We're live with no viewers currently, but perhaps soon. I'm going to go ahead and post one last link to the YouTube page so that people can know that we are live. Whoops. And we're live. What is going on?
What is even happening?
I was trying to get the chat to load just in case. There we go. Okay. Just in case someone ends up chatting with us. I want to make sure we had that there. All righty. Are you ready?
I'm just retwittering you.
Excellent.
There, retwittered.
Okay, and all right. Ready to roll?
Let's get ready to roll, bull.
Ready to roll, because we can't say rumble or else we'll get. All right. It is August 2nd, 2018. No, let me try that again. It is Thursday, August 2nd, 2018. I'm Micah Sargent, and right now we are going to talk about changes coming to the Apple affiliate program, Apple earnings, which are, per usual, just bonkers, and we're going to answer some questions as well, because this is the iMore show. I want to start today with a bit of a PSA. Please do be looking around as you're driving and walking out there, because there certainly must be pigs flying. We are not joined this week by Lori Gill, the steadfast and ever true host of the iMore show. And so I just think you should watch out for flying pigs out there, because they must be out and about. But I am happy to say that I am joined across the internet and across a border by the wonderful Canadian pal of mine who just had a birthday, Renee Ritchie. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Micah Sargent. I feel like we're drifting, like we're drift compatible, like we're co-piloting Kaiju iMore today.
I love it. I love it. I think that's exactly what's going on. Yeah, we're linked in, we're synced in, and we are going to rock it.
I meant, of course, Jaeger iMore. There's no way Mike and I would be on the alien team.
Yeah, come on. We know better. We're better than that. So let's go ahead and.
So is it true that Lori Gill loves us, but she loves Disneyland just slightly more?
Oh, I don't even think it's slightly, and I think that I think that if she were here, she would very easily and very happily say, like, y'all are great, but Disneyland is here for her. She loves Disneyland. I mean, I think I talked about it. It might have been with like a meeting with all of us, but I am pretty sure that if anyone is getting close to like gaining citizenship to that park, it's her. She's definitely going to have one soon.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're enjoying Lori Gill. You certainly earned it.
Yes, you did.
For us.
Yes, have fun for us. We're going to talk about sad things. No, so this kind of came out of the blue, Renee, and I'd love, obviously, and I think many people out there would love to hear your take. You've been doing this for a bit longer, and you have, run the roost,
ridden the roller coaster that is
the roller coasters, the ups and downs, and all of those things. The 360 backflip gainers. You've done it all. Apple just announced that they are going to end the affiliate program for apps. Is this correct? It's just apps, right?
Just apps. If you affiliate link TV shows, movies, books, music, you are still fine. You will still get your commission, your little pat on the shoulder for making that referral link. But if you link iOS or App Store apps, as of October, forget if it's 1st or 30th. I think it's 1st. I'll have to double check that. You will no longer get any affiliate revenue.
And let's go ahead and assume that folks might want to know, and yes, it is October 1st, by the way. Let's go ahead and assume that folks might not know exactly what affiliate link is. What does that mean whenever we're talking about affiliate linking and getting money from apps?
So I mean, it's an old school business model applied to new school internet business, and basically there was a lot of businesses that thrived on commission. If you sold something, you got a tiny percentage of the proceeds of what you sold, whether that was like at a Best Buy and you sold somebody a printer and you got a couple bucks for it, or if you worked in a fashion place, you sold a dress, you got a couple bucks for it. All of that kind of stuff. When the internet came around, some vendors went to affiliates. Amazon famously has one of the biggest affiliate programs in the world. It's what the Wirecutter has subsisted on for years, and us too, many other people. And Apple launched one for iTunes. I think they used a third party at first, and then they ended up having their own affiliate program. And so basically, anytime you would link to an app or a movie or a song or a show or a book, you would use a special link instead of the default link, and that would let them know that the link came from you. Mm-hmm. And if someone spent $1, you would get 7 cents. If they spent $10, you'd get 70 cents. If they spent $100, you get $7. So, I mean, it wasn't a lot of money in like by itself, but in aggregate, if 1,000 people clicked on your link and bought 1,000 things, it would start to add up. Mm-hmm. And back in the early days of iMore, it was great. I mean, we essentially paid, I think, for Leanna Lofty, our old app editor, her salary largely came from the revenue we earned on the App Store. But then over the years, it got worse and worse. Now, a lot of that had nothing to do with Apple. It was a result of things that Apple and the industry did, like they made in-app purchases and a lot of the upfront value from apps. Like the price of apps went down. When apps sold for less, we earned less. And then apps went free and you earn nothing on free apps. And a lot of people wanted to take the value out of the initial upfront app because they would just want people to download. So apps went free, or they were backed by giant internet companies like Google or Facebook making the photo app instead of you buying it from an indie. Or there was a subscription service like Netflix. The app doesn't cost anything, but Netflix makes a lot of money from subscriptions and you get none of that. And just the way the industry trended, we were making less and less from it. Last year, Apple was going to cut it from 7% down to 2.5, I believe. And then they backtracked and only cut the in-app purchase revenue, which most people did. So the trick to this all, I should have said up front, is when someone clicks on a link, you have a brief window where anything they buy gets credited to your affiliate link. Mm-hmm. But that window got shorter and shorter, and also less and less things. Like if someone buys an app and then goes and buys a bunch of Smurf berries, is that really because of you? No. So the people who sold the Smurf berries didn't want to give up the money. The whole thing got really complicated. But suffice it to say that because the App Store changed so much, the amount of revenue you were making from App Store affiliate changed.
So if I bought an app about, I don't know, dog barks, and then the next day I went to the store and bought dog food, one would not expect that app is going to get credit for the fact that I went and bought dog food the next day. So I understand sort of where that shortening of time and, linking between those things came from. I want to talk to you about the company or the sites out there that exist right now that continue to thrive on these affiliate links. That there are sites that completely surround the process of apps, app updates, and like best of lists for apps. And so they make a lot of their money doing that. And this is pretty bad news for them, right?
Yeah, so I don't know how many of those. There used to be a lot in the great glory days of app and affiliate programs. There were a lot of them, but I think like we saw the writing on the wall early on, and we downshifted. We do like I can't even tell you how little we think about App Store, and this is terrible, but how little we think about it these days in terms of affiliate in general and income in general. Federico Viticci of MacStory said that he saw the writing on the wall and he changed direction years ago, and he has a wealth of different options now. Some sites couldn't or wouldn't, and also it followed an industry trend where, like in some industries, in music and in films and in TV, they advertise heavily. The entertainment industry advertises heavily, including on entertainment websites. And that, they did a little bit of that in the early days, like for example, Touch Arcade, or they would get big video game company support, and that just went away. And I think that was one of the big blows too, is that the industry itself didn't support you, and that made them more dependent on things like App Store. And as that went away, it just became harder and harder. And Eli Hodap, editor-in-chief of Touch Arcade, had up a brutal post this morning saying that basically Apple is killing their business. And I feel for him, but this is like, this is like Apple killing it after the industry killed it, after a whole bunch of other stuff killed it. And they're trying to make do with Amazon. And a lot of us are trying to make do with Amazon. But that's the thing about building your business on other people's platforms. Last year we saw a bloodbath of people who built Facebook video businesses, and they just basically lost everything and had to lay off everybody. And a lot of businesses now, they live in perpetual fear that Amazon is going to alter the terms of the bargain, like Darth Vader, on affiliate revenue, because everything from Wirecutter, us to all these review sites depend on Amazon revenue. But Amazon might decide one day they don't need us anymore.
Yeah. So, if Amazon, if
I
Amazon's
know.
like, yeah, we're just gonna do our own thing now,
Yeah.
that's kind of scary.
Mike and I will be doing stage plays over here.
Yeah, exactly. Hit me up for, it's fine for now. But yeah, that it's good that many of the publications, it seems to be, have seen the writing on the wall, and it's unclear if maybe some were just very rose tinted shades about things, or what was going on there. But for those who do end up getting swallowed up by this, I think that stinks. And
Yeah.
I mean, my only other question for you is, do you see any backpedaling happening with this, or do you think like this decision has been made, it's been pushed through, it's done?
So I don't know about backpedaling, but I do hope they change their mind. So if you look at this so one of the big problems is that Apple didn't just announce it, but they announced it in the worst possible way. They did it right after their most successful Q3 ever, on the eve of becoming $1 trillion company. The wording in the announcement basically said like, yeah, thanks, we don't need you anymore, bye.
Were
And
there even any emoji?
no, and it
Oh.
was just sort of like, we have our own app store, Mac app store, discovery systems now, and we don't think we need third parties anymore. That's horrible. That's the negative backlash, I think, was largely Apple's fault because of the terrible wording. It was what's the right word for it? It was you could easily mistake it for malice.
Mhm.
And I've spoken to people, and Apple didn't mean it that way. At least, as far as they can tell, nobody there meant it to sound that way, but it did sound that way. It was indistinguishable. That's what I was looking for, from malice, and then that made it hard. But also, like, if you look at it from Apple's point of view, the App Store affiliate system has been withering for years, and probably I mean, they're the only ones with the real numbers, but they see less and less money going through it, and yet they still have to maintain it. At the same time, they're spending inordinate amounts of money building up their own editorial and graphic design, all these other resources for the Mac App Store and the App Store, and it's probably not financially viable for them anymore to keep running it. And but that's a purely financial thing, and Apple's culture is not to run anything at a loss. Famously, they make money on everything. There's no loss leaders, no real loss leaders at Apple. Uh, but I think that value doesn't always come from money, and loss leading doesn't always have to be about money, and that there is just such a vibrant, important, diverse, rich community out there. And I don't want charity. I don't think anybody wants charity. They don't want Apple
Right.
to just throw money at them. But even if Apple has to run this at a slight loss, I think it's an investment in that community.
Oh, that last part you've said there, yes, that is choice. I absolutely agree that, part of the success of the App Store in the beginning, a big role of that is every time a developer releases a new app and they reach out to the different publications and say, hey, we're about to put this app out there, and people learn about the apps from those of us who write about them, and then they go to the App Store and do that. And yes, there is an incredible editorial team at Apple working on making sure that cool new apps and apps that have existed for a while that maybe aren't getting attention are all getting coverage within the App Store. But there's still this gigantic network of individuals who are passionate about this, that are out there helping to bring business to Apple and to the developers. And I think I'm curious. I haven't seen a whole lot of takes from app developers themselves. I've seen plenty of takes from my fellow journalist friends, and some questions, mostly from people who don't have any hands in any of the pots, or however that
There were a
saying goes.
couple, because some developers use affiliate links too. It lets them get a little bit of money on people who buy directly from their links. And that's sort of like, because Apple doesn't have any direct sales opportunities on the App Store, everything goes through them. And it was a way for them to sort of claw back a little of the 30% that Apple charged them, even if they were the one who generated their own lead. And that sort of balanced things out. And they're giving up on that. And a couple of developers said it was never a large amount of money, but it was a nice little amount of money that they now have to do without. That sort of clawing back thing. And I should point out, Google has never provided us with affiliate revenue for Android Central. And some people fear, there was two sort of conflicting fears, Mike, and I'd love your take on this. Some people said because there was affiliate revenue, we could never trust your reviews or your recommendations because all you wanted to do was make money off us. And other people are like, without the incentive to make money, no one is going to bother to review the apps or anything anymore. It's not worth their time. And I would think like neither are true, because I don't think over the years Android Central's coverage of apps has been any different from iMore's, even without any app affiliate revenue.
So what you said there at the end, because I thought you were going to try to make me choose between the two, and I was going to be like, no, it's really neither. One of the things, I think it is a little bit specific to the company that we work for. But one of the things that I really appreciate about Mobile Nations itself is how little the focus is on these more sort of, I don't know, tangible deals. Like it's not about the direct, connection between the money and what we're writing. It is about being passionate individuals who care about this stuff and want to help people, or want to introduce people to new things, or want to get excited about stuff. And I know, like, probably there are people out there listening who are rolling their eyes going, oh boy, he's probably reading this from a script. But honest to God, like, this is the truth. This is exactly how it is. And so it is a little bit painful, a little bit heartbreaking whenever occasionally there are that feedback, like, the only reason you're covering this is so you can make money off of it. And it's like, no, I when I'm saying like this dog camera is so great and my pups love it, like, I'm seeing them wag their tails because they're getting little treats out of it or whatever. You know what I mean? And so the same thing applies here. And we have that evidence, like you've just said. Android Central's coverage of apps is still as on par with iMore's, and we aren't more incentivized to cover. We aren't more editorially incentivized to cover these apps because of that. It's genuinely like, holy cow, I send Chella a message. Did you see this photo app? This is awesome. And it could be one that's free. It doesn't matter. It's not about that.
Yeah. I mean, paid apps are nice because they support developers, but developers have lots of ways of supporting themselves now. So I don't know where to go from here. I would like to see Apple reverse this decision and just keep it around, because I honestly think it's good for the community. It might sound self-serving because we do make a small amount of money off of the affiliate program, but it's so hard now. It's so hard. Web and mobile advertising is crap, and it keeps getting worse. And you never know when someone's going to mess with your affiliate percentage. Like I said, Darth Vader on Bespin Bargain style. And there's just not that many ways to make money, but we still want to make content. And we're not idle rich. Like if Mike and I were both worth $1 billion and we were retired off our family's cash lulls, we could just have fun. But there's all these websites have gone out of business because it is so hard. And it sucks when it gets harder.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and we will move along to our. Oh God, we're going to follow it up talking about how rich Apple is. So that's great.
But I mean, they chose the timing, right? They could have chosen any time they wanted.
But before we get there, I do want to tell you all about Udemy. I love that name, by the way. Udemy is so great. So Udemy, it's the largest and most accessible online learning marketplace. They've got the most courses, the most teachers, the most opportunities for students everywhere around the globe. Udemy has over 65,000 courses available, from coding to comic book art, available anywhere on their website and also their app. Now, I really dig Udemy because of the opportunity to go in and like find it. I love learning. I love learning new things. It's so much fun. And Udemy has so many courses across so many different areas that I could just go in and like, oh yeah, this sounds like a great weekend to learn about drawing comics, or this seems like a good weekend to learn about coding for iOS 12. And it's all there. It's all available. So 65,000 courses. There's probably something for you, whether you're at home, you're at your desk, whether you're on the computer, you're using an app on your phone while you're on the go. You can literally learn that new knowledge anywhere. So on that subway ride, whenever you're like, oh, this is taking forever, why not pick up a new course and learn? So great. And guess what? They've helped us set up an exclusive offer for our listeners. If you go to ude.my/iMore right now, you're going to get 90% off when you sign up for classes. You're not going to find a better price anywhere. So sign up for classes now using the link ude.my/iMore and get access to life-changing classes for 90% off. Go ahead and make sure you download the app for your phone so you can stream your studies, like I said, when you're on the go. Once more, that's ude.my/iMore, ude.my/iMore. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to talk about Apple's Q3 earnings. Before we dig into the numbers, I have been transcribing the earnings calls for a while now. And in this last one, I noticed something kind of interesting. Tim Cook was a little bit more open with things that he was saying and like sharing during the call. And
really?
Yeah, which I found interesting. There were times where he would talk about the upcoming stuff. One of the analysts asked him about the Oprah partnership, and he went into some pretty good detail about like people that they've hired before and people that, you know, they're working with now. And he's like, we aren't going to go into too much detail, but like I'm super pumped about what we're working on here. And there were a couple times throughout where I was a little surprised with how open he was being about potential future stuff that they're working on. And no, it wasn't just coming out like, oh yeah, we've got 6 new products and here's what they are. But it did feel a little bit more like, oh, let me just drop in some little hints here to get you excited. So I kind of liked that. It made the listening to the call while transcribing kind of fun.
Yeah, there have been times like Apple's traditional line is that they don't talk about future products, but there have been times, like I think specifically with augmented reality and autonomous technology, that Tim Cook has really spoken out about it, and maybe AI because there was
smart home stuff too.
Yeah, smart, because they felt like, you know, people were giving so much attention to Google and they weren't getting their fair share, but. Yeah, I think because the Hollywood stuff, just by its nature, has to be developed in public because, you know, like Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon aren't going to stay quiet about what they're working on.
Right.
The Apple's got to be out ahead of that. He did not bring up the glasses, the Apple glasses. So I mean, it was still a little bit of traditional Apple. But I think you're right. Tim Cook is always so cordial. He's such a gentleman.
I know. You know,
it's not scrappy Steve Jobs. And Luca is just a European. He's like a flavor punch from Italy. Yeah,
I just always want to give Tim Cook a hug. I just want to. He just seems like he would be just so huggable.
Totally. But we got some really good stuff here. Like there's this paradox where every time Apple does well, people start to think the next time they can't do well. It's like you're sitting next to somebody at the blackjack table in Vegas and they win, and then you're like, oh, they're gonna lose next time, and they win again. You're like, oh, now they're really gonna lose. And they win again, they win again, and they win again. You're like, oh, they got to lose sometime, right? I'm betting on it, and they just keep winning because the odds, it's the odds of them winning each time are the same, and even though the odds of them winning over and over again aren't as good as they are them losing eventually, there's nothing to stop each time them winning. And in fact, if they have a good pattern and a good strategy, they can win more often than they lose. And I think that's the thing that sort of confuses people about Apple a bit, because this was their best June quarter ever, Micah.
Which, wow, they just, I mean, like you said, they just keep kind of saying that. This is our best quarter for this. This is our best quarter for that. Apple Watch did well. I mean, if you want to share some of the numbers, awesome. I would like to talk about this increasing importance and focus, and also increased winning when it comes to services like Apple and services. It's getting pretty wild.
Like the Neil Seibarts and Ben Beharans and Horace Dedias and Ben Thompsons will hit all the numbers. I'm like the thing that is interesting to me about Apple is how I'm not going to use the skating to where the puck is going to be analogy again, because I think it's not quite right for this. But iPhone was reaching maturity, and almost everybody who wanted an iPhone had one. Probably people aren't going to be buying 2 or 3 of them. They're not opening up Apple stores on Mars, but they found a way, because if you can't sell more iPhones, you can get more money for the iPhones you sell. And they're doing that in a variety of ways. One is introducing higher margin products like the iPhone 10 and providing enough value that people are willing to spend more money on them, but also doing the services you mentioned, like Apple Music, and if they come out with Apple Magazine, but all of these value-added
Care, App Store, Apple Pay,
all of these things that make an iPhone more valuable to you, but also increases the amount of money you give to Apple for owning and continuing to use an iPhone.
One of the things that there was not a developer. No, these aren't developers. One of the analysts had asked kind of some more information about how Apple sees, it was Laura Martin from Needham, how Apple sees these devices in sort of AirPods and Apple Watch in comparison with iPhone. And so, and like Beats and things like that. And so she was kind of asking, are these products all on ramps into the Apple ecosystem, or are all of these products on ramps into iPhone, which is then the on ramp into the Apple ecosystem? And I thought that was an interesting question because for Apple Watch, you buy an Apple Watch without an iPhone, and it doesn't do everything that it can do if you have an iPhone. In fact, like I'm pretty sure it has to be paired to one to do the setup process. But with something like AirPods, I think that Daniel Bader actually had written an article about AirPods being a great set of Bluetooth headphones or earphones, regardless of what what device you're using. And Beats, there are probably plenty of people out there with Beats who don't have an iPhone. And so it is an interesting way to sort of look at Apple's other products category and see which of those products within that category can be on ramps to the Apple ecosystem and which ones are just directly from those devices to getting an iPhone. Because for me, I think that the iPhone really is the on ramp into the Apple ecosystem and is the thing that you like would start with. And then, you suddenly you've got an iPad and you've got this and you see the benefit of having all of those devices. But I'm curious.
Watch and Apple TV. That's
right. Yeah. How do you feel about that, that sort of idea that each of these devices could be an on ramp overall, or if you think that they're just sort of like fun things to add to iPhone?
I mean, in the early days, we used to talk, well, not early days, but in my early days, there were certainly later days for Apple. We used to talk about products and accessories, and things were clearly one or the other, like Mac, iPhone, and iPad. And back then, iPod were products, things that you would actually go and buy. And then there were things that were accessories that added to the overall value. That if you bought them in conjunction with what you already own, they made the total value higher. And that was things like the Apple TV. Even today, things like HomePod. You might not have it on its own, but when you do have it, it just makes everything else work better together and provide better value. But I think, Tim mentioned this at the very, very end, that they were seeing people who found the idea of an Apple Watch, whether it was for health and fitness tracking or mobile payments or notifications, because we've seen a lot of people, they work, like, for example, in a restaurant, they're not allowed to have their phone with them, so they have their Apple Watch with them so they can get their texts and messages while they're working. That makes the Apple Watch one of the most important things that they own, and one of the things they use most often, that they will actually go get an iPhone just to have an Apple Watch, or just to get on iMessage with their friends, or just one of these other services just to get in on this. I don't know if Apple TV is there or not yet. It's more of a niche product, but I think we're seeing that, maybe they want an iPhone because they keep seeing their friends get apps earlier or exclusively or whatever for a while. But there's just something about having it that makes them get what they want sooner, faster, and they feel better than anything else. And whether that's a traditional way in or whether it's something that sort of nudges them over, I think we're seeing both now.
I find it interesting, regardless of sort of what the motivation is, just motivations in general on why people get devices. When I got a second, so I had the fourth generation Apple TV, I had one, and then I had the third generation Apple TV, and I ended up upgrading to the fourth gen, to the other one, the third gen to the fourth gen, because of my HomeKit setup. I wanted to have another home hub in my home on the opposite side of my house. And now that I've got HomePod, I've got 3 home hubs, plus my iPad also works as one whenever it's hanging out at the house. And, a friend of mine bought an Apple TV after he had purchased a 4K, like he purchased a 4K television, and then he was looking like, what do I want to get to go with the 4K television? And so he got the Apple TV 4K. So it's kind of fun knowing the different reasons that people purchase them, and how I think that can differ sometimes from how analysts see things, because the motivations aren't always the same. And, it could be an unpredictable reason, because I don't know of many people who are ridiculous enough as I am to be like, oh yes, let's add more HomeKit relays in my home, so I'm going to buy this set-top television that lets me watch TV. And it's fun to go to that.
I think that, there was that famous tweet from Neil Seibart a couple of years ago where he said, Apple Watch outsells the Echo, but everyone says the Apple Watch is doomed and the Echo is a smash success. So where the analysts are and where actual consumer sentiment are sometimes two very different things. We live in our own bubble. By we, I mean the general people who cover technology products. And, sometimes it's an American bubble. Sometimes it's an affluent first adopter
First adapter. Often first adopters also have to get adapters. So yeah, both.
Totally. And sometimes it's just, wow, whiz bang, neat. Like I remember when the BlackBerry Passport was announced, everyone's like, finally, BlackBerry is daring to think different. It's not an ugly, black slab in the same shape. But they're not paying BlackBerry's bills when nobody buys a phone that looks like a Pop-Tart. So you got to be careful. Like if someone made a triangular phone, that'd be new and nifty, but nobody would buy it. So I think we have to take great pains to make sure that we keep in line with what people are actually doing with their technology.
Absolutely. And speaking of people doing things with their technology, Curtis Boyle in the chat says, my first generation Apple TV is still running. It's the one model that lets me store stuff to watch that I can take with me to places with no connectivity. Aha, that's handy. That's smart. So you can plug that in somewhere, like in a hotel where you might have like captive Wi-Fi login nonsense, and you don't have to, worry about connecting to the Wi-Fi. You just plug that into the TV and start playing whatever content is on it. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the Q&A portion of the show.
Yes,
we've got
my favorites.
We've got several that have come in, but before that, I do want to tell you all about our friends at ZipRecruiter. Hiring used to be hard. Hiring hard. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. But guess what? Today, hiring can be easy, and you only have to go to one place to get it done. It's ZipRecruiter.com/iMore. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards, but they don't stop there. They've got powerful matching technology. So ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and invite them to apply to your job. And as applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective. Get this. 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in how long? One stinking day. 80% get their candidates in one day. With results like that, it's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the highest rated hiring site in America. And right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/iMore. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/IMORE, ZipRecruiter.com/iMore. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All righty, let's break into things. So this first one's a troubleshooting question.
Uh-oh.
And so we might both have some ideas for things
Is it a query?
Zing! Nick Garcia, that's at It's Nick G on Twitter, asks, I just connected my new Apple TV 4K to a new 4K TV I bought. First of all, congratulations. I noticed that if I click on any apps on the App Store, nothing happens. Any ideas? Everything seems to work, and I'm running the latest update. So it's my understanding here that Nick is dealing with problems like downloading apps from the App Store. And there are many reasons why this could be happening and many ideas for fixing it. Renee, what are some troubleshooting steps you could take?
I would, if he was here, I would just start asking a bunch of questions.
Exactly. There are so many more questions.
Are the built-in apps working, but not the App Store apps working? Are no apps working? Can you play video? I mean, I don't know what stage of broken it is. Right. Because one of the things you have to contend with is that 4K TVs aren't just 4K TVs. They're HDR10. There's what's it called? Dolby Vision. You want to make sure everything is set right. You're logged into your account. I mean, all the basic stuff, Mike. I don't know where to start.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Like with this question, it probably is going to be better if you follow up with us and let us know. But some of the things that I would suggest just to start things off, if you go into the settings app on the Apple TV 4K, because it's a lot of people know like how to hold down the button and turn the television to sleep, but that's not the same thing as completely restarting it. So go into the settings app and try restarting it and see if that works. If that doesn't work, I would try logging out and logging back into your iCloud account. And if that doesn't work, then that's where things really start to get interesting.
I mean, maybe we can help you more there.
Yeah, leave your question. If one of those things doesn't help, go ahead and reach out in the iMore forums, and we'll see about what else we might be able to do.
One quick ninja trick: if you want to reboot without going to settings, just hold down both top buttons until the device blinks, then let go, and it'll reboot.
What? That's new to me. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've been there. Like I fought the war. I got the T-shirt.
Excellent. That's good to know. Now, here's one from Michael A. Crosby. That's Michael Crosby87 on Twitter. Renee, do you think Apple will upgrade the iPod Touch and iPad Mini to the A10 chip to add ARKit compatibility?
So never say never, but I think as time has gone on, other devices have come to fill those roles. That Apple hasn't discontinued any of them is the height of confusion, but then it took them years to discontinue the airports. But I think inexpensive iPhones have largely replaced iPod Touch. And I think the bigger iPhones have largely replaced iPad Mini. And I say this as someone who lived on an iPad Mini for over a year. But when I got the iPhone 6 Plus, I just didn't find myself using it. Sort of the iPhone getting bigger let me have an iPad that was bigger. And I know that doesn't apply to everyone, but the problem with Apple is that it has to apply to most people for them to keep making a product.
Yeah, and when we think about ARKit and AR in general, like the best experiences are well, I shouldn't say that, but some of the best experiences, or at least the most engaging ones, are mobile experiences where you can sort of move around and be out and about. And so having a device that can connect to cell tower versus only being able to connect to Wi-Fi can be all the difference if you're trying to be out and about playing like ARKit improved Pokemon Go or something like that. So yeah, I think for many reasons we're not going to see upgrades to those, but never say never, like Renee says.
I mean, I'd love to see it. It'd be super cool to have a really small tablet, iPod style device with GPS and all the bells and whistles. It just does not seem to be in the fast track at Apple.
Yeah. So I want to hit this one because we sort of have shared our thoughts on the earnings, but iParav, that's at Parav Meta on Twitter, says, what are your thoughts on Apple touching market cap of $1 trillion?
Oh, if Dr. Evil could only see us now. It's so big. It's such a big. So, I mean, this is a bit of a vanity metric because there's so much that goes into it. It's like Apple share price versus its valuation, how much Wall Street traditionally doesn't get Apple versus how much wealth the company keeps bringing in. So it really is just a number. And I think someone on Twitter was saying a Chinese company had briefly hit it earlier, but didn't sustain it. And who knows if Apple will or not. I have a feeling we're just going to trend higher and higher and Amazon will get here soon enough as well. But it's a headline.
Yeah, it's a headline.
It's a good headline. Kudos. I mean, yay, it's a big number.
Yeah.
Should I be excited about this? Am I missing something? Because so many people were like so ready to tweet it. And then is Yahoo accurate? Is this accurate? I don't know, but then the stock has changed. And
I think that this might be the company the like finance version of sports teams or something. And like, I don't get sports ball excitement really. And so I don't get this excitement either. Like cheering on your favorite team. This is cheering on your favorite company. I guess it's so bizarre to me whenever people talk about sports games and they're like, we won, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but you didn't.
Okay,
those people did.
I think so. I do like sporting. Like I watch I don't watch a lot of sports, but I do watch championships because I love the story, like the underdog. But like this to me is like not like, oh, your team finally won the Super Bowl. It's like, oh, your team finally won the Super Bowl 10,000 times.
Yeah,
it's so exciting. Like it's a huge number and it's great. But it's not like a lot of companies were in the running for this.
Right. Yeah. There's no sort of no challenge involved.
There's no Daniel LaRusso story
there's no music playing in the background that gets
bad room bears, bad news bears.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. So cool. Yay. Here's a cookie, but that's all I got for you.
Apple, good for you, man.
Yeah. Enjoy it. Let's see. So this is an interesting question and sort of talks about what we discussed earlier. And I think is one that a lot of people maybe think about, but maybe don't want to ask. So at Rasmus_tech, that's Rasmus Christensen on Twitter, asked us, why is the end of the affiliate program a problem? As a consumer, I might think you are covering things for the links and the money. I kind of don't like when sites make lists with recommendations because they all link to, for example, Amazon. I'll kick things off here. So, we talked earlier about how with the affiliate program, it's been a long time before iMore has, had to have that be the focus of where we make money. And so for us, it's not like it's not a huge deal, but just as in the community as a whole, as Renee talked about, sort of community building and just like the health of the community, that's where it is an issue. I also think like this is a bit of a disagreement, I think, between people, and some people, get bothered by the fact that there's like an affiliate link whenever someone's tweeting something and some don't. For me, I am so, so, so thrilled if someone can like make money off of the fact that I'm buying something that I like. That's great. I have never been, bothered by someone, because it's not like it changes my experience. I can trust that my experience has not changed, and the product that I'm buying is not going to be more expensive because I'm also paying for this person. They just also get a little bit of a cut off of it. And it's like, if I follow this person on Twitter and they are saying that this is great and they're the reason that I've been introduced to it, then yeah, let me kick some money over to them. I think it's great. But I understand that, different people have different opinions on that. What are your thoughts, Renee?
Yeah, no, I mean, we live in it's complicated because, like I said, if you walk into like a big box retailer and the person was saying buy this cable, not that cable, or you're wondering, wow, is their commission bigger than on this cable than that cable? Maybe. Is that really the way you want to live your life? I don't. I think in general, there is that pressure. There is that concern that when you do make money off affiliate links, you want to recommend things that will make money. But the other part is that you can't sustain that unless people also come to trust your recommendations. And if you abuse that, you lose the trust, and then no one's clicking on those very carefully prepared affiliate links. So there's a very strong incentive to not only pick things people will love, but make sure those things provide value, because then when they want their next thing, they'll come to you to find out about it. And I think that was always the balance that went on there. With Android Central, it was easy because there were no affiliate revenues, but now there's Amazon. And Amazon sells almost anything. So does it really matter that I use Amazon? Because I'm trying to tell you which of the 8 things that they sell are the best one for you. It has nothing to do with Amazon selling them. Amazon just happens to sell all of them, and I'm trying to help you pick the right one. So no, I mean, I think if you don't understand the business, it's an easy assumption to make. It's some good FUD for people. And I think you should worry about that, and you should find people whose opinions you trust and whose ethics you trust.
Yes.
But beyond that, I think, I can't go on Instagram without seeing someone half out of a car saying, "This is great," sponsored by Car. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. Be vigilant on, who you're choosing to read and pay attention to and listen to the recommendations, but also understand that the motivations behind those things and where they come from. And Renee, I think you put it very well when you said, like, if I'm going to do a search on Amazon for dog blankets and there are going to be 50,000 different dog blankets, I love that there's somebody out there who can help me figure out which one is the right one to get. And if they are being helped in the process, then that's awesome. Now, we've already covered this, but I do want to point out at I am Jeff Perry on Twitter did ask us, what are your thoughts as a company about the Apple affiliate link removing thing, and will this affect your bottom line? Jeff, check out the beginning of the show. You probably already heard that. This is an interesting question, I think, and it's going to be one of those, well, it depends on what apps and it depends on what you're using. But at JJ Vasquez JJ asks, do third-party email, calendar, and note apps save data on their servers? And if iCloud is turned on for these apps, is that information only kept on Apple's servers?
So, yeah. So, I mean, it really does. So there's different kinds of data. And there's different kinds of data that gets backed up on different servers. So for example, if you're using a Google product, chances are really, really good that Google has your data, because that's the whole point of Google is predicated on them keeping and extracting value for both them and from you based on their data. If you're using an app that says it keeps everything locally, then you're pretty safe in assuming, unless they're lying and caught lying, that they're keeping all your data locally. What what the iCloud stuff does is 2 things. One is it syncs it between your devices. And in order to do that, it has to travel through Apple servers. But in the case of most sync, it's end-to-end encrypted and then sent as a bunch of pseudo-random gobbledygook through Apple servers. So if anyone on Apple's end saw it or tried to get it, it would just be a bunch of junk, letters and numbers, not meaning anything. And there's also backup. So for example, if you destroy your iPhone, let's say you accidentally hit it with phaser kill instead of phaser stun, and you go buy a new iPhone and you restore it, it's got to be able to pull the data back for the app, not just the app off the store, but the data you had in that app. And that's living on Apple servers. And that typically is encrypted, but it's not encrypted in as complete a way, because I'm gonna just get off on a tangent here for a second. There's fail safe and there's fail secure. Both of these are totally legitimate options, and people who care about information security will say only ever have fail secure, and people who care about data retention will only ever say have fail safe. And the difference is this: there is things on your computer that you would rather lose than have stolen. And there are things on your computer that you would rather have stolen than lose. An example is, for example, photos of your babies or of your wedding, in Micah's case of his chihuahua, that if you lose those, you might as well just get divorced at that point. It's all over. It's done.
Exactly.
You have to keep that stuff safe. And the problem with encryption is if anything goes wrong, you cannot recover it. If drives are encrypted and they go bad, there's no data recovery that can repair them. So in that case, those things are more valuable to you than they are to anybody else, and you want to keep those things safe. And Apple tends to do that with backup. In other cases, like when it's information that could be used to blackmail you, for example, you'd rather that information be gone than anybody else get their hands on it. And in those cases, Apple tends to encrypt that end to end.
There you go. We do have a question in the chat from Gustavo. Gustavo asks, do you recommend the new MacBook Pro considering all the negativity surrounding it?
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
I've been using one going on like 3-4 weeks now. I'm weird in that I think I actually prefer I don't like the fact that the previous keyboard failed, but I prefer the feel of it a little bit because I think the silicon membrane that protects it that makes it is less noisy. It also is a little bit punchier, and it sounds like it's going to be more reliable, but it's a little bit softer. But that's me. Most normal people don't feel that way. But it's the best computer I've ever owned. Now, here's the thing. Almost every processor is throttled for heat because heat is destructive. Heat is one of the few things that your devices cannot repair from. So they do everything they can to keep them throttled. And as computers become more like mobile devices where they want to be portable, but they also want to be powerful, the compromise there is to heavily manage the thermal performance envelope. Now, if you had a giant gaming PC, that wouldn't be a problem because the thing would be 9 feet thick with F22 Raptor ports exhaust on it, and it would be fine, but it would not be very portable. You can have different compromises. Apple doesn't believe those are the compromises most of their customers want. So they do manage the thermals. But that said, every task I've put this through has been faster, and almost all of them have been faster by a degree that is higher than the 2017 versus 2016 MacBook Pro.
There you go. I have no thoughts on that because I don't have one. But yeah, I've heard good things. And frankly, like if you're going to go with one of these modern models, they have made improvements over time and continue to do so. Unless you're looking for those clicky keys, then you might have a bit of an issue. One more question here from Twitter. This comes from @HobieHenning on Twitter. We heard any more rumors on a HomePod Mini? I want to get a HomePod, but getting one for every room is expensive, especially when half the reason I want one is HomeKit and Siri shortcuts. Yes, that would be very expensive to fill your home with HomePods. Certainly not something I would recommend, or your bank account would recommend probably. But it's been a while since I've heard any HomePod Mini rumors.
It's like beginning of the year, I feel like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After they actually shipped. Yeah, I mean, Apple has these different product lines, and more often than not, the product lines grow over time. We went from one iPhone every year. Now we're supposedly going to get 3 iPhones this year. We went from one iPad to an iPad Mini and an iPad Pro. We went from famously we went from an iPod to an iPod Mini to an iPod Nano to a Shuffle to a Classic. So Apple does tend to grow their product lines over time, and I don't think that the HomePod would be any different.
Yeah. I don't know, like the rumors of these don't necessarily point to them existing, and I could understand a smaller. Honestly, I would rather have a completely portable one.
I want a soundbar.
Oh, that would be really nice. I am often so my HomePod is in my office, and I'm almost always in some other room whenever I'm ready, like wanting to listen to music. And so I wish I could take it with me, because I totally would just like do. And I've mentioned
the acoustic thing. Like I think Apple would want an experience, because the whole selling point of HomePod is that you can put it anywhere and it sounds great no matter where you put it. And I don't know how far you can shrink their acoustic technology yet.
Yeah. You should see the ins. Check out the teardowns because that thing's packed to the brim with speakers and things like that. Last thing I do want to mention here, Obscura is a fantastic camera app. We have written about it before on iMore, and I think we also had been on to talk about Obscura and how like raw photography works on iOS, if I remember correctly. But anyway, Obscura is a great app if you're wanting to shoot in RAW. If you want to like have a very minimalistic design, and it's one that I like to use. And we just had an article about how you can get it in the Apple Store for free for the next 2 months. Now, again, that is the Apple Store app in order to check it out. But for the next 2 months, you can get that for free. And so if you're looking for a nice app to shoot raw photography, check that one out.
It's so good.
I think, Renee, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the iMore Show. We've done it again.
We got it all done in the time it took Lori Gill to move from last to first in the Space Mountain line.
I can hear her getting ready to get on now. Sounds exciting. I want to thank all of you out there for listening. To those of you who tuned in to listen, thank you so much for being here with us. To those of you who sent in questions, thank you so much for sending in questions that we could answer. Renee, if people are looking for you online, where can they find you?
I'm at Renee Ritchie on all the social things, and I have a little YouTube channel, youtube.com/Vector Show.
All right. And if you're looking for me online, you can find me at Micah Sargent, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee, chihuahua.coffee for links to all of the things that I do. You can find Lori on Twitter at Appaholic. That's APPAHOLIK, and at Lori Gill on most of the other social things. You can find us all writing over at iMore. And I want to thank Jim Metzendorf for editing the show and always making us sound our very best.
Way better than we deserve.
If you heard my voice in real life, it's so much different than the one that... No.
Hey, Micah, how we doing with the show today?
Hey, this is so great here. We've got a great podcast going on. Oh, I'm going to stop because there might be Cockney people out there who are like, don't make fun of my accent. I'm sorry. We love you. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. We will be back next week with more. I hope you have a great week or weekend, depending on when you're listening to the show. And until next time, this has been the iMore Show.
That was sensational.